Pain in the hands has a way of stealing life's smallest joys. I've seen people avoid buttoning their favorite shirt, stop writing notes to grandchildren, or wince just picking up a teacup. Arthritis in the hands is one of those quiet thieves, robbing comfort and independence one stiff morning at a time. And here's the surprising truth. Relief can come not from high-tech gadgets or complicated treatments, but from simple, everyday techniques you can practice right at home. I'm Dr. Brian, and welcome to Channel Wellness Blueprint Over 50. Today, we're going to explore 10 gentle yet powerful ways to soothe arthritis pain in your hands. These aren't just tricks. They're lifelines that can bring back strength, freedom, and confidence. So settle in, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you use your hands tomorrow morning. Imagine holding your grandchild's hand, but feeling as if your own fingers are locked in place, stiff and unwilling to bend. That was the reality for one of my patients, Margaret, a retired teacher who once loved knitting scarves. She told me that her yarn and needles sat untouched for months because of the constant ache. When we began with the simplest technique, gentle hand massage, her eyes lit up with the first flicker of relief. Massage works like a friendly reminder to your joints and muscles that they are still alive and capable. By using your opposite hand to knead in slow circles around the palm, base of the fingers, in the back of the hand, you send blood flowing into those starved tissues. Think of it like watering a wilting plant. Circulation brings nutrients and warmth that soften the stiffness. Adding a dab of lotion or oil helps the motion glide with ease, preventing tugging at the skin. Even 30 seconds can quiet the burning discomfort, creating a pocket of peace in an otherwise restless day. Over time, this little ritual can be more than pain relief. It can become an act of self-kindness, reminding you that your hands deserve care and attention as much as your heart or mind. Another patient of mine, George, once described his hands as rusty hinges. Every morning he'd wake up unable to clench a fist, his fingers swollen and uncooperative. What gave him surprising relief was something so simple he initially dismissed it: alternating between warmth and cold. Heat works like sunlight on frosty ground. A warm compress, whether from a heating pad or a damp towel fresh from the microwave, seeps into stiff muscles and coaxes blood to flow more freely. The warmth relaxes the tight tissue and eases that grinding ache many feel at the base of the fingers. Just 30 seconds of gentle heat can soften the rigidity. Cold, on the other hand, is like a soothing hush for an inflamed joint. By pressing an ice pack, or even a bag of frozen peas wrapped in cloth against the swollen knuckles, inflammation shrinks and pain signals quiet down. George learned that switching between heat and cold gave him balance: warmth to loosen, cold to calm. Science supports this. The Arthritis Foundation notes that thermal therapies can help reduce swelling and discomfort, making movement easier afterward. These compresses don't require fancy tools or prescriptions, just a bit of mindfulness and consistency. Sometimes relief really does come from what's already in your kitchen drawer. Think back to when you first woke up as a child. You probably stretched without thinking, arms overhead, fingers wide open. That natural urge doesn't fade with age. In fact, it becomes more important. For people living with arthritis in the hands, stretching is like gently oiling the gears of a well-loved machine. Without it, the joints stiffen. With it, movement begins to return. I remember a patient named Lillian who loved gardening. She told me she could no longer grip her watering can because her fingers felt locked. We began with the simplest exercise: making a fist, holding it, then slowly opening the hand as wide as possible. She described the sensation not as painful, but as releasing, like opening a window after a long winter. Another helpful stretch involves gently pulling each finger back toward the wrist using the opposite hand. Done with care, this helps restore flexibility to individual joints. Think of it as reminding each finger it has its own freedom to move. Scientific research from the National Institute on Aging shows that regular range of motion exercises can preserve independence by reducing stiffness and maintaining joint health. For Lillian, after weeks of consistent stretching, she returned to her garden, fingers strong enough to hold the hose and coax her flowers back to life. There's an old wisdom in our hands that modern medicine is only beginning to fully appreciate. One afternoon, a gentleman named Robert came into my clinic, frustrated that medication alone wasn't easing his hand arthritis. I showed him a simple technique rooted in acupressure, pressing the soft web between the thumb and index finger. At first he laughed. How could pressing there possibly help the aching knuckles on the other side of his hand? But within moments his face softened as tension began to ease. Acupressure works like flipping a circuit breaker. By applying steady, gentle pressure to specific points, the body's nervous system can respond with signals that relax muscles and calm pain pathways. It's not magic, it's physiology. Pressure on these points stimulates nerves and blood vessels, encouraging better flow and balance. Studies, including one published in the Journal of Pain Management, suggest acupressure may reduce chronic pain intensity for certain conditions. For Robert, adding this 30-second practice throughout his day gave him another layer of control over his discomfort. He told me it felt empowering, as if he wasn't entirely at the mercy of his arthritis. That sense of control, knowing you can press your own hand and unlock relief, is a small but powerful victory in reclaiming independence. There's a rhythm hidden in our fingertips that we often forget about until pain slows it down. Finger tapping is one of those deceptively simple exercises that wakes the hands up. I first suggested it to Mary, a retired pianist who thought her playing days were long behind her. She told me her hands felt heavy, like lead, and every attempt to stretch ended in frustration. We started with finger tapping, pressing each fingertip one by one against her thumb, then tapping gently on a tabletop as if she were drumming to a soft melody. Within a week, she said her fingers felt more awake. This exercise increases circulation, which is like sending fresh fuel through tired pipes. The repeated light contact activates the nerves, encouraging better coordination and easing stiffness. Science explains it this way. Repetitive motion enhances neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new pathways. That's why even simple tapping can retrain the hands to move with more freedom. In Mary's case, the tapping didn't just help with pain, it reignited her confidence. A few months later, she sat down at her piano again, not for a concert hall, but to play lullabies for her grandson. Her hands weren't perfect, but they were alive, and that was enough. There's something remarkably healing about the simple act of squeezing. One of my patients, Helen, used to carry a small foam stress ball in her purse. She joked that it was her pocket gym. What she discovered, though, was that this tiny tool gave her more relief than she expected. Each squeeze strengthened the muscles around her joints, much like building a support team around a fragile structure. When those muscles grow steadier, the joints don't have to bear the full burden alone. I often explain it this way. Imagine a bridge supported only by its beams, without any cables to share the strain. Over time, the beams wear out. But if you add strong cables, the bridge stands tall. Your hand is no different. Strengthening the small muscles distributes pressure more evenly, protecting the inflamed joints. A study published in Clinical Rehabilitation found that simple hand grip exercises improve both pain control and functional ability in people with arthritis. For Helen, using the stress ball for just a few minutes, several times a day, transformed tasks like opening jars and turning doorknobs from battles into victories. She even started calling it her hand medicine because while it wasn't a pill, it was something she could reach for whenever she needed a dose of relief. The thumb may be small, but it carries enormous responsibility. Try buttoning a shirt, opening a jar, or even holding a pen without it. You'll quickly realize just how much strength and mobility depends on this single joint. For people with arthritis, the thumb often feels like the weakest link, stiff and unwilling to move smoothly. I remember Daniel, a retired carpenter, who came to me saying, "Doctor, my thumb feels like it's rusted shut." We began with a straightforward exercise, thumb circles. He moved his thumb slowly in a circular path, clockwise for 15 seconds, then counterclockwise. At first, his motion was jagged, hesitant, like a gear grinding back into use after years of neglect. But over time, the circles became smoother, more confident. This exercise increases blood flow to the base joint of the thumb, nourishing cartilage and easing stiffness. It's like gently oiling a squeaky hinge until it swings more freely. Scientists at Harvard Medical School emphasize that mobility exercises, even short ones, help maintain function in arthritic joints by keeping connective tissues supple. For Daniel, those daily circles restored not just movement, but dignity. He proudly showed me how he could hold a hammer again, not to work long days, but to build a birdhouse for his granddaughter. A small victory, yes, but one filled with joy. Swelling is one of arthritis's cruel companions. It makes the fingers puff up, the knuckles look larger than life, and simple motions become painful. One morning, a patient named Clara told me she woke with her hands so swollen she couldn't even slip on her wedding ring. For her, the relief came from an easy adjustment, raising her hands above her heart. Hand elevation works much like draining excess water from a flooded street. When the hand is held high, gravity assists the body by drawing fluid away from the swollen joints, easing pressure and restoring comfort. Clara would rest her hands on a stack of pillows while watching television or prop them against the back of her sofa. After just half a minute, she noticed the throbbing began to settle. Physiologists explain that reducing blood flow to an inflamed area helps shrink swelling and decreases the chemical signals that intensify pain. The Arthritis Foundation also supports elevation as a simple, non-drug method for controlling discomfort. For Clara, this practice wasn't just about reducing swelling. It became a daily ritual of reclaiming calm. She told me it felt like giving her hands a timeout, a chance to breathe. That small act allowed her to slip her ring back on and go about her day with more ease. Sometimes the quickest relief comes from nothing more than your own two hands. Friction rubbing is exactly that. Rubbing your palms together briskly until heat builds between them, then letting that warmth sink into stiff joints. It may sound almost too simple, but for many of my patients, this little ritual brings surprising comfort. One man, Samuel, used to do it every morning before heading out for his walk. He told me his fingers felt frozen in stone when he first woke up, but after rubbing his hands together for half a minute, he could actually flex them. That warmth works like kindling in a fireplace, igniting circulation and loosening tight muscles. The sudden rush of blood helps wash away some of the inflammatory chemicals that irritate the nerves. Research into thermotherapy backs this up. Even mild heat, such as that created by friction, can improve joint flexibility and temporarily reduce pain signals. And unlike electric heating pads or wraps, your palms are always with you, free, portable, and ready whenever stiffness strikes. For Samuel, friction rubbing became more than a warm-up. He described it as his daily reminder that small actions still hold power. "It's like telling my body," he said, "I'm not done yet." That spark of determination, paired with gentle heat, carried him through his days. There are times when the ache in arthritic hands feels so sharp it seems to live right under the skin. For moments like that, topical pain relief creams can be a helpful ally. These ointments often contain ingredients such as menthol, capsaicin from chili peppers, or salicylates, which work by creating warming or cooling sensations that distract the brain from pain signals. It's like turning down the volume on a noisy radio. You can still hear the hum of arthritis, but it doesn't drown everything else out. One of my patients, Elaine, a former librarian, swore by a menthol-based gel she kept by her nightstand. She said it gave her just enough comfort in the evening to hold her mystery novels without constant grimacing. Science supports her experience. A study in the journal Pain Medicine found that topical capsaicin significantly reduced osteoarthritis pain over several weeks of use. The best part of topical creams is their immediacy. Unlike oral medication that has to journey through the bloodstream, these creams go straight to the source, offering focused relief with fewer systemic side effects. Elaine told me applying the cream felt like giving my hands a little hug. That tender gesture, paired with the physical benefits, reminded her that even in pain, care and comfort are always within reach. Living with arthritis in the hands can feel like life's simplest joys are slipping away, but it doesn't have to be the end of independence or comfort. Each of these small techniques, whether massage, stretching, warmth, or a touch of cream, offers more than pain relief. They give you back a sense of control, a reminder that healing is possible at any age. I encourage you to choose one practice and make it part of your daily rhythm. Over time, these moments add up to freedom. If this message has helped you, please like, share, and subscribe. Your journey matters.